Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and with me as a special guest for this episode and more coming soon, my good buddy, the director of social media for Uriah Heep, Dave White. Dave, how are you?
Hey, Scott. How you doing? I'm fine.
I'm good. I feel like I sounded like a game show host right there.
Sound just like a game show host.
I could have done that. That would have been a fun job. How are things going for you, my friend?
They're fine. They're fine. The weather's turning, and Heap's got a new album coming out, as we all know. So things are good. It's going to be winter. We live in Southern Ohio now, and the weather's great down here. Family's good. You know, everything's fine.
Got a new grandbaby, too.
We have one. He's 2 years old, just about. How you doing?
Oh, 2 already, man. That's crazy. I'm good. It's a good day here. Storms rolling in, which is pretty nice for us here in the desert. We don't get that a whole lot. And I'm ready to dig into a Uriah Heep song.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. We're talking about Mistress of All Time from the album Sea of Light. I know this is a favorite of yours. We're going to get into why you're drawn into this song. And I'm really glad you picked this one because I think there's really a lot to dig into here.
All right. I'm all yours. Let's go.
All right. Now, there is a subtitle, which seems to be a theme on this album, Enlightened Woman. So we're gonna
I think when Phil wrote this, that's what he was trying to convey, you know, the enlightened woman and all things such as, you know, I mean, if you look at the lyrics, you know, they're very much in that vein. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's what it is. It's a simple concept, but great lyrics behind it.
There's a lot of imagery in it. I really like that.
Yes, there is.
All right. Well, let's hear what it sounds like, because it sounds like a brilliant song as far as I'm concerned. Definitely one of my favorites. And here is how it goes.
She dances on.
Okay, before we get to the lyrics that we just got to, I love this opening. It has such a combination of hope, but a little bit of uncertainty with that low note hanging at the bottom.
Awesome intro. That's your typical late 80s synthesizer single note intro. It just lends itself to become so many different things. It's great. He thinks, I talked to Phil about this, he thinks it's a Roland XP80 that he had back then. He's not sure, but he thinks so. But that one note and the little cadence up on top, you know, awesome intro.
Right. I think there's a good chance he's right that it was an XP80 because they had a good variety of those warm synth pads like he's using here. And that rich tone underneath definitely could have easily been a Roland. I could see it being a Korg, but I don't think he was really a Korg player.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there. And, you know, this gives Bernie so much room. It's such a broad opening that he can go anywhere with this.
And on this one, like most of their songs, but particularly for me on this, you really have no idea where this is going to go. And it could go negative and go down and become a sad song. You just don't know. And when this song starts up, it's not at all what I thought it was ever going to be. But I love the way it turned out. But, you know, judging just from this 15 seconds that we just heard, it's wide open.
Absolutely. And you know, they are the masters of that kind of thing, though. They set it up to where they can just go in any direction. And no matter where you think it's going, you're wrong. It goes somewhere surprising.
That's Uriah Heep.
That is Uriah Heep. Well, let's see what happens next.
She dances on the seven seas, dances on the ocean, sunlight on her golden hair, shapes of pure emotion. Her voice is heard like crystal words across the sky. She moves just like an angel. She's the mistress of all time.
I love that. He sounds so good on that.
There you go. Major chords coming off the suspicious beginning into a nice, happy sounding song. Bernie's voice is like spot on. It's a little higher than I'm used to. This was a long time ago, you know? So his voice is younger sounding. Great vocal melody. I just love this song.
And I love the flow of the notes that he chooses to hit, especially at the end of that last line. But in the first couple lines, he sounded a little bit like Geddy Lee. And I just remembered he's from Canada.
He did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, and he's from Canada. But you said, I remember you telling me once that he sounds a little more British now.
He does. I think when he speaks now, he sounds a bit more like a Brit. He didn't when I first, heard him speaking years back. Now he does, sort of. He still has the out and about and that kind of thing from the Canadian side of his growing up, but he does sound a bit more British.
Yeah, I've noticed that that's happened to me when I was doing interviews before I joined my band, who's based out of Montreal. I start saying things like out a lot differently than I used to. I never spoke that way when I lived in Detroit.
It's almost like going way up north, the flannel shirt. So she dances on the seven seas. This is the first word in this is she, so this is about a girl. This is about a woman. This is about a female.
Is it though? I often wonder when people are writing, because I've done this too, you're writing about a woman, but is it a metaphor for something else? And you're just putting it in a way that people can identify with it.
Yeah, I think that's where they're going on this for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Here's what happens after that.
Okay.
Okay, there's some real magic going on underneath of this. I didn't notice this when I heard the song before, but listening to the chords that Phil's playing beneath that flute solo, which we decided is probably a keyboard, he's really playing some interesting progressions there.
Want to back it up a few seconds? Let's hear that again.
Sure, let's do it. It almost borderlines dissonance.
Absolutely. Typical Phil. He takes you in one direction with the lead melody and takes you with a different direction with the chords underneath it. That's brilliant. I love the way he did that.
I do too. And I really feel bad that I didn't notice that the first time. I was kind of engaged in the flute solo, which is very nice. It fits the song very well. It again is kind of like that higher sound that Bernie's got right now. But what he's playing underneath is really dramatic.
It's very subtle, though. It's not in the forefront at all. It's very subtle underneath it, but loud enough to totally take you where that flute is going.
Right.
It's just not what I thought it was going to happen. It's perfect.
Yeah. And again, just that unexpected quality that this band has had since day one.
Yep. Absolutely.
Her sun pours down like liquid gold to chase away the sorrows. Her clothes are like a million stars made of tears and rainbows. And all the while her senses smile into my life. She moves just like an angel. She's a mistress of all time.
Now, I want to point out there's a real subtle delay on Bernie's vocals here. He's hitting a lot of S sounds, and that really works well for that delay because that's what you're actually hearing pinging back and forth is the S sound.
That's very astute. I didn't realize that. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it's something I've noticed with delays. They really pick up on certain frequencies and syllables. Any of those soft S or C sounds, they're really predominant then in the delay. I hadn't noticed it before, but I also hear it ping-ponging a little bit between my left and my right ear, which is a really nice effect. It makes the song sound much bigger.
Okay. This metaphor we were talking about before in this second bank of lyrics here. Her Her sends a smile into my life. She moves like an angel. She's a mistress, not the mistress, a mistress. So, we're talking metaphors of, I think, of womankind.
Oh, that's very possible. I think that's a great observation, because you could read it as just, very much, here's what it is on paper. It's very simple, very straightforward. But I think there's a lot more in there.
Yeah, she's not the mistress. It's not about anybody specific. It's about a kind of thing versus someone.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, because usually we narrow down on, I love this woman, or this thing means the most to me. It's very rarely done in such general terms.
Yeah, this is really well put together.
Very much so.
Just like the restless to a mission bell, I must run to her, meet her everywhere. As some music.
We got to talk about these backing vocals.
They're awesome. I love it.
It sounds like there's a chorus of 40 people singing.
It's got to be the old trick where you record everything and then you double everything on the other side. I mean, it's got to be this whole bank of vocal, and then the same thing on the other side, maybe a millisecond off or something, because it's very full.
Yes,
it's really, really well put together in a massive sense.
I absolutely agree, and I have to think at least 3 of those tracks are Bernie.
I'm sure, yeah.
And then everybody else is filling in the sides. But, obviously Heep has always been known for their backing vocals, like bands like Three Dog Night, which that was their whole gig. But what they've done on this album, they've created a whole unique sound compared to what they've done in the past. And the mix and the recording on this album is spectacular.
It is. It's crystal clear. It's so much more than it was on the preceding albums prior to this. I just think they hit it out of the ballpark on this one.
Yeah, and you've heard the shows. You've heard me complain. I mean, really, the only complaints I've had on the music is the mix.
Yeah. The sonic qualities of this album, I think, are outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really hoping as I get through the next couple of albums that they keep in this direction, because this is a good way to go. And one thing I love about Bernie is his ability to convince me that he's experienced whatever he's singing about. And he didn't even write the lyrics to this song. He's a
Bernie
master.
Delivered.
Yeah.
Bernie totally delivers. He's got this thing nailed up. The the synth turned into an organ now. So now they're doing a Hammond organ on underneath everything. And the bass came in, the drums are nice and crisp and on time, they're just like right on spot on. And Bernie knows that we like what's going on, and I think he's just overwhelmed doing this tune. I think it's something that he wants us to hear, and he's so powerful. It's just interesting. He's just a tinge higher pitched than I'm used to hearing him.
Right.
Now.
But you're right. I mean, and hearing the full band now backing him, the song is 10 times as powerful as it was a minute ago. We've got an incredibly recorded acoustic guitar here.
Yes, we do. I think it's a Furch, but then again, it might be his old 12-string, and I don't know which one he was using on this. I think it's a 12-string right now.
I thought it might be a 12-string. It has that sound to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, the drums recording is fantastic. The toms are huge. They make a big impact. It's a nice punchy kick, a nice tight snare like I like. And you can't go wrong with Lee Kerslake.
That's right. He was always right there.
Mm-hmm. And of course, on bass, we have Trevor Boulder really just playing in the pocket on this right now.
Right now, there are, as you'll mention later, because I know you picked up on this. I've talked to you about this song prior to doing this show. Mm-hmm. He's got some really nice bass fills coming up.
Yeah, he does. And I love when he brings out what he can really do. He knows how to play for the song.
Yeah, absolutely so.
Yeah. Let's I can't wait until we get to that part. Okay, before we get into the piano solo, I just have to comment on how great that guitar sounds.
Definite 12 string. Absolutely. Probably on both sides, probably recorded, one track recorded to another track of the same track.
Right.
But I'm sure it's a 12 string.
And I love when Mick plays acoustic because he's just so smooth. It's just got a nice gentle flow to what he plays.
He's just pounding away on it, and you don't hear any transient attacks or anything. He's very smooth. It's compressed nicely, and it just rings out.
Yeah, very much so. And with those real nice keyboard pads backing it up, just makes the whole thing sound rich and full.
It's shimmering.
Yes, very much so. And I want to comment too real quick on the flute solo because we decided that was keyboard. I'm going to say that kind of furthers my argument for it being an XP80.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that for sure.
I mean, I love Korgs, but I don't think that they had that quality on their wind instruments back then.
Roland did.
Yeah, Roland did for sure. All right, well, let's hear where it goes. Okay, this is going to sound weird, but Dave, I think you know me well enough by this point. Hopefully the audience does too. This gives me the same feeling. That piano solo gives me the same feeling like when I look at the album cover. It draws me in. It makes me want to be where that's happening.
That's well said, Scott.
Thank you. Does it make sense though?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mick's got this droning. I think the song's in D, like right now. I think the bass line of the bass root chords of this right here is D. And he's droning on the D on the 12 string, doing D, G, and A on the upper fretboard in the D position. And it's just droning along. And Phil's piano isn't clashing with that at all. He's outside of that.
Right.
And I think that and the drone is what's stringing is what's maybe causing you to say something about being drawn into the music via the album cover, because it's kind of like that too. If you look at the cover, you're being drawn into the far set of whatever those are, boulders, islands floating in the sky. Mm-hmm. The ones in front, one thing. The ones you're being drawn to are the ones in the back.
That's a good point. Yeah.
As weird as that may sound coming from me, that's what I think's happening.
No, I think you're onto something there. And it's interesting too, because they've always had, I've loved most of the album covers. Some of them I'm like, but even the ones we really know well, like Magician's Birthday, Demons and Wizards, I've never wanted to be in the album cover. If I was in the Magician's Birthday album cover, I'd be ducking. That would not be a fun place to be.
Do you have Photoshop?
I do not.
Well, then I'll put you in the album cover and send it over to
it. I never need to sleep again. Thank you. But do you know what I mean? Like they're not they describe the music and the state of the band perfectly, but they're not places that I want to necessarily be. Whereas Sea of Light, as soon as I looked at the album cover, I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if that was a real place?
Yeah, they got Roger Dean for this one, and he did this for this album. This didn't exist before Sea of Light, as far as I'm aware. He did this for the album.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. He captured the feeling very well, especially in relation to this song.
Especially for the music, also for the rest of the music on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a great album. All right, and the song continues. Okay, now I know I'm interrupting the song a lot, but this is where Trevor starts to come out a little bit. So keep an ear out for those little bits that Trevor's playing that just make things even more interesting.
Yeah, he's starting to do the little fills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I like that he didn't do them from the beginning, that he's doing kind of a build throughout the song.
Yes, they're in the right spot at the right time.
Absolutely.
Some music fills the universe.
love when he hits a high note like that, when he just is in the middle of a line and he just goes up, not like a super high scream note, but just up beyond where he's normally singing.
When you first started this back up a second ago, that's where he was. He came right in that way.
Mm-hmm.
He went right up there. You look. I'm reading the lyrics as we're doing that. They are so out there. They're so wide open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of imagery here, and I think it's one of those things where you can just read the lyrics or listen to Bernie sing and kind of decide what it means to you.
I'm one of those people that don't really hear lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those guys that, being a guitar player, I can play the lyrical melody. That's not a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
First time I hear a song, I can usually get into it. And when I play solos and things, that you tend to play part of the lyrical memory, the lyrical imagery as you're playing, because you hear what you think the words probably might be, but I don't usually hear words. I have to go back and look at them. On this song, I've always heard the words.
Yeah, they're crystal clear in the mix, for one, which really allows you that. And although Bernie's always been up front, I've felt on the last couple of albums that he's just, they could have just turned it up a little bit more and gave him that clarity of, really being able to hear what he's talking about. I tend to hear the vocals as an instrument.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So listening to a lot of Cirque du Soleil music, because the lyrics are complete gibberish 98% of the time, really taught me that the vocals are more of an instrument. And listening to Bernie just from a tonal perspective, it's just a joy to hear the guy sing.
He could have been an announcer. His voice is so... What's the term I want? When he's so, it's not succinct, but the way he speaks, she's just so clear, he's just so clear. Every word is so clearly pronounced.
Right. And if they give him that room in the mix, then it really cuts through, you know? And before we start the song again, I do want to comment on the guitars, because in my right ear, I'm hearing the rhythm on the acoustic. In my left ear, I'm hearing something a little bit different. I'm hearing certain highlights come in my left ear that I'm not hearing in the right. So I wonder if he double tracked this.
Probably did. Want to back it up a second?
Yeah.
Across the sky, she moves me like an angel. She's the mistress of all time.
There's just slightly different accents in the left ear.
Yeah, they probably doubled it. They probably did the one guitar and then copied it over to another track and did something to the copied track a little bit, fill it out. It sounded a little bit different than just being a clone of one track.
And, just,
nice touch.
Yeah, just shifting it a little bit and adding a little bit of change in the EQ can really do that.
Absolutely. Nice touch.
Yeah,
that's
very much so.
Really great producer engineer. Yeah.
Definitely. And that's another thing that gives the song such a big sound.
And the other thing is that Uriah Heep has Mick, these guys have now been together for 30 some years, but then they hadn't been. But if they all did this together and they all had their 5 cents worth of, opinions on how this is going to be mixed and produced and stuff, that's really commendable, because this is really well put together as far as the little touches that you don't know you're hearing unless you really listen to it. And you go, oh, that's why it's so great, because everything sounds so cool because they did this and that, this and that, and this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the final touches on these are just perfection.
They are. They really are.
Yep. Do not disagree one bit. I love when bands take two different parts of a song and overlay them, and they come out sounding as good as this part.
They put a little bridge in between the two sections. Did you hear that? They were doing this chorus, and they did a little minor tick up and just a little bits to distract you for a second, but walk you into the chorus again.
Yeah.
Really, really well put together. I love that part.
And that's another signature move of Heap.
Yeah.
They do that a lot, and it works every time.
Phil does this kind of thing. He writes some really great music. I mean, I've always been a fan of Phil's, and he does this kind of stuff. It's great.
Yeah. Listening to his solo albums, just blown away by the quality of the writing and how surprisingly different they were. I mean, he's a very unique composer.
He's a superb composer as far as I'm concerned. He writes some really wonderful music.
Yeah, I would highly agree with you there as well. I like when Lee does those little changes that just kind of throw you off time, but don't at the same time.
Yeah, he had a really cool way of doing that too.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's okay, but it's probably really difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he did it. I have this image of about 50 people up on stage, and they're all got their hands or arms waving back and forth, and they're behind the band doing this chorus section.
I am so glad you just said that, because
I mean, like that Coke commercial, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of it feels almost like a kumbaya moment. You know, everybody's got, arm in arm. They're all together.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's definitely the exact imagery that I got.
I mean, isn't that what it feels like? They're just out there, everybody's happy, you know, and they're celebrating whatever they're celebrating and doing this thing, and they're awesome.
I feel a real, like a unity, that people are just there together in the moment. There's not, judgment, arguing, politics, none of that stuff made it to the stage. They're just all there together enjoying the moment.
And the song is not so complicated that it's taking away from that. It's just droning on in this beautiful chorus section. This one lick that they're going over and over and over on, and it's growing in intensity. I think a little bit, maybe volume wise or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the image that I get. They're all standing up, they're just smiling and doing their thing. And
I think we're getting more in the background. I think Phil's playing some other additional pad or something that's making the sound get bigger.
Could be.
Plus with Trevor filling in a little bit more, that's adding to the whole thing. But I want to make a quick note too about the flute. I normally hate the flute. Just there's something about those frequencies that are typically very ear piercing to me. Even when I'm writing orchestral music, I'll really dumb down the flute in the mix. But I have to say, it sounds really good on this song. There's nothing that's cutting through in a way that's unpleasant. It's almost subtle, just blended in with everything else. It's not standing out so much as a solo instrument.
I can't imagine it's not a pair of tracks, because whoever did this, flutes have a tendency to either be too low or too loud. And I think this thing is a double track or a triple track maybe, and they're really nicely EQ'd and compressed and balanced, and you're hearing the output because it's perfectly suited into the mix. It's situated like right there where it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's not irritating like at all.
Right. And no offense to flute players. I mean, it's a beautiful instrument. It has its place in the orchestra, but typically most flutes just hit that frequency that just does not work for me.
Yeah. Agreed.
What a perfect ending.
And the crowd went wild.
And the crowd went wild. Did they do this song live? Do you know?
I think I heard it live once. I think.
This would be a great ending to a show.
I think I was in England once and they did it. I can't remember. It was, God, you're talking 20 years ago, but I think so.
Yeah, I don't know where I was yesterday half of the day. But it just has that feeling like you could just carry this on for a while and then just let it end and then just kind of walk off the stage into the darkness and have that good feeling for everybody walking out.
That for being a guitar player, that droning 12 string, I just love that. It's all the way through the song. It never leaves, never gets out of where it's supposed to be. I just love the way that thing sounds.
Well, I'd like to get your opinion on this because I'm not a guitar player, and it seems to me that Mick is one of the most patient guitar players I've ever heard. He doesn't need to be out in front in every song. He doesn't need to be, hey, look at the guitar solo I'm going to do. He plays for the song in a way that in a lot of songs, he doesn't shine at all. But without him being there, the song wouldn't work.
Mick plays for the band, and the band plays the songs. You're absolutely right. He doesn't need to be the showman until he wants to be. But many times he's on a song, you don't even hear him sometimes, but he's there. Yeah. He's there. He's obviously there, but he's just accompanying the song. And he's not worried about anything but making the song the best that it can be and conveying the ideas that they had the best that they could be conveyed. And I'm sure he's extremely into the music as far as writing it and final and not final decisions, but decision making along with the rest of the band. But I'll tell you, Scott, I've heard him warm up before concerts, just he and I on stage for 15 minutes while he is amazing. I mean, people don't hear the stuff that he knows how to do. It's just incredible. And then the songs come in, the band starts playing, and he plays Uriah Heep songs. He's an amazing guitar player.
Yeah. And he's kind of the opposite of Yngwie. Like Yngwie can play fast and he makes everybody know he can play fast and he does it on every song. Whereas Mick is like, I'm just going to play what the song needs.
Yeah, totally different styles. I mean, totally different thing. Yngwie is neoclassical and Mick is Uriah Heep.
Right. But if anybody questions the ability of Mick Box, I mean, I know this is going way back in the catalog and it's almost kind of cliche to pick it out. Just listen to Salisbury.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, still, there's so many times I'll get those solos. They'll just pop into my head and they won't leave until I listen to the song. And then they'll stay for another week.
When I first started listening to Uriah Heep, other than the first album, once I got past the first album, the thing that I really liked the best was the Hammond, and then getting my fill of that after a couple, 3 albums. Then I locked into Mick again. And I've talked to him, many times about how he did certain things, what instruments he used on certain songs, what amplification he had, so forth and so on. And he'll tell you, it's all about the song. It's all about the band.
Yeah.
He's just one with all of that. And he doesn't need to shine. He wants to shine when he's supposed to shine and when he thinks it fits the music, but he's just a band's man. He just does it the way it's supposed to be.
And I have to have, huge respect for anybody who really cares more about the song and the band than anything else.
I've asked him a couple of times how to do certain things, not so much Uriah Heep stuff, but like other things that I've heard him do. He's amazing.
Oh yeah.
He really is amazing.
No doubt about that. And I think that he's, people talk about, and somebody just posted recently, like, do you think that David Byron was an underrated singer? I think Mick is an underrated guitar player because he doesn't go out in front all the time.
He is the most underrated guitar, not underrated because he is underrated. He's underrated because he just is, because he's with the band.
Right. Because people don't know what he can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question about Mick. I've noticed during this era, really ever since Abominog going forward, when the sound really changed, I don't hear him using his wah pedal a whole lot.
Not right now. He changed guitars. He's getting a lot into, he had a Yamaha guitar with a Floyd Rose on it, and then Floyd Rose vibrato, like a whammy bar. And he got into that a little bit the next couple albums coming forward. And even to today, he's using Carparelli guitars, and a couple of them have Floyd Rose vibratos on them. So he has a different sound now that he didn't have before. But you don't hear the wah so much in this. You'll hear it on the albums coming forward after this one.
Okay.
This one, he kind of came down on it for sure. Yeah.
Wasn't he playing a Les Paul for a while?
He plays Les Paul primarily, and Carparelli guitars. He plays a clone of Les Paul now.
Oh, gotcha.
So his guitars pretty well stay home. And he's got them in different places for, he's got a nice collection. He's got them separated and hidden away and so forth and so on. Excuse me. But the Carparelli company sent him what's called I think it's an S4, which is like a Les Paul clone, and very high quality clone though. It's obviously something that he likes to use. So he's probably got 5 or 6 or 8 of them.
Right.
And that's what he uses when he tours. So he doesn't take damage the classic vintage instruments that he has, which he prefers Les Paul over everything. And his mainstay, for those who don't know, have always been a Les Paul and 100-watt Marshall.
I believe it. He's always kept it simple. He doesn't have a crazy rig.
He's got a wah, a chorus, a 100-watt. Now he's using Engel lamps, but he always used a wah, a chorus, maybe a boost in some things, because you can't turn a 100-watt Marshall up in most places. People can't think when that thing is playing so loud. They're incredibly loud.
Yeah.
So to tone it down a little bit or to tame it down, obviously he uses pedals now. Not a whole bunch. Not a whole bunch. He's got a little bit of reverb and away he goes.
Yeah. And sometimes there's just beauty and simplicity. You can screw things up so badly by overcomplicating them.
Yeah, but you have to know how to use these beasts.
Yeah.
As Phil calls the Hammond B3 the beast. And I think playing a Les Paul or anything with humbuckers on it through a 100-watt Marshall lead, you need to know what you're doing because they are a beast.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. So you put that distortion on a Hammond B3 and it's just going to knock cars off the road.
Isn't it beautiful? I love that sound.
It is.
Phil's a master at that too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, listening to his sound on this album, because in a couple of the songs earlier already, he's had that distortion on the B3 and it's just right. It's not so much that it's destroying the sound, but it's enough to really give you that overdrive feel.
It's got it nailed in, and it's not the Ken Hensley sound. It's kind of distortion. It's Phil's distortion.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different. It sounds different. It feels different. It's perfect for them.
It's signature. I mean, it's not John Lord's. It's not Keith Emerson's. It's not Ken Hensley. It's definitely his own.
I think I recognize Phil's playing anywhere I've ever heard it. If it wasn't for Uriah Heep songs, if I just heard his keyboards out there, I'd probably guess that was Phil. He's very signature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you don't really find in a keyboard player these days. Most keyboard players and bands really just kind of play the chords and, make the sound a little bit bigger, but they don't really stand out as individuals.
Phil is a composer. He's a superb performer. He's got it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree anymore. It's really been a refreshing thing since he joined the band. You could hear the difference in the sound.
And you know what? He's obviously classically trained as well, because the stuff he comes up with, you can't just do if you don't know what you're doing. So he's really got it all.
Oh, and when I've seen him live, I mean, to listen to his solo work, it just blew me away in my chair. I'm just sitting there going, wow, this guy's really spectacular.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, Dave, I can't thank you enough for coming on and doing the show. It's a great song, and you added really a lot of great commentary. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed this, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, you'll be back.
Okay.
We have
Anytime.
much more to do, my friend.
Anytime. I'll look forward to all of it.
Yeah, me too. Well, you take care. And thanks for all the shares and the posting. For you guys that don't know, I mean, I say it every week, but Dave is the one that whenever you see posting on Twitter or on the Facebook group, that's Dave. He's the one that takes the time to repost all of these episodes. When I started putting the show together, I didn't know who Dave was, didn't know he existed, but he's a thing. And I've made his life much more complicated by doing the show. So thank you for all the effort and the sharing that you do. It really means a lot to me.
My pleasure, my friend.
All right. Well, you take care and we'll talk soon.
All right, Scott.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!